Did you see that when DB came back and played for us, that they got mad that our fan base was booing her?
I don't believe in booing former players unless they left on like some type shit.
You can tell a sport is changing the second the noise inside an arena stops sounding like a routine night and starts sounding like a movement. 1 week it's applause and polite cheers. The next week, the crowd is electric, impatient, and very, very loud, hungry for something real. That's the environment Sophie Cunningham walked into this season. Not a quiet league, a boiling one. Everyone saw the clip. The thing skidding across the hardwood, bouncing with this ridiculous wobble that looked like a prank until you remembered there are people on the floor with knees, ankles, and careers to protect. Sophie had half-joked, half-warned days earlier. Stop throwing stuff. Someone's going to get hurt. Then it happened. Not a hypothetical, a headline. The kind of headline that turns an athlete into a voice whether she asked for it or not. The old playbook would have turned that moment into a press release. A carefully worded paragraph. A request for fans to be respectful. The end. But that's not the world Sophie lives in, and it's not the world fans want. She didn't wait for a beat reporter to translate her feelings.
I like DB because like DB was one of my vets when I was in Phoenix, and then we gathered here into Indiana, and like it was kind of a surprise that she was signed to Indiana anyway, and so we'll take her in a heartbeat. Like she's a Hall of Famer, she's a hell of a basketball player, can score from anywhere on the court.
I just think, and you know way better than me,
yeah.
But like it just feels like people are jealous of this new little wave of
they are, but I just hate that because like this is what we've always wanted as a league. So like, who cares who gets the credit? And if you're smart, you're making money off of them.
Yeah.
Like you are literally making money from the viewership.
And why bully the person who is like not 100% responsible, but like has a huge role in growing your sport?
Dude, and it literally like pisses me off when people are like, she's not the face of the league.
Who would be?
What?
She didn't soften the edges for a sponsor. She said what she meant, directly, publicly, and in real time. And the message that accidentally rode in with it was louder than the incident itself. Players don't need an interpreter anymore. If you want the story, you can get it from the source. That's why the podcast mattered. Not because everyone has a podcast, because who built the studio and which door it opened. Sophie linked up with a platform that already speaks to mainstream sports fans. Not the niche backroom, the main stage. That distribution changed the math. Suddenly, a WNBA player didn't have to hope for 30 seconds at the bottom of a studio show. She had her own mic, her own cadence, her own community, and a pipeline into every timeline that pretends it doesn't watch women's hoops, but somehow knows every single thing Caitlin Clark does. And then Sophie made the moment unavoidable. She said the thing you're not supposed to say if you want to keep life simple. She didn't hedge. She didn't dress it up. She heard people circling the same tired debate. Is Clark actually the face of the league? And she dropped the match. If you say she isn't, you're not paying attention. Period. Call it blunt. Call it loud. It was also obvious. Packed arenas. Overnight TV bumps. Road crowds chanting like they'd waited years to be let into the room. How do you pretend not to see the sun when it's burning your eyelids? That's when the consequences arrived. Not the I disagree debate clips from television. The other ones. The official ones.
I went from, I think, like...
followers, yeah.
350,000 and like maybe 200,000 on TikTok.
You had 200,000 on TikTok a month ago?
No.
Before the fight.
Before the fight. And then I had like 350 on 100,000 on Instagram. Over the night, or over like a day and a half, over 1 million on both. Insane. This is coming from me though, dude. I got tired of seeing myself.
I get it.
And I love myself.
I get it.
I love myself.
Fines. Warnings. The polite emails that say, we respect your passion, however. The kind of friction that's supposed to make people sit down and color inside the lines. But this is where the old model misread 2025. You can't penalize a conversation out of existence when the conversation is the content. Every fine is a free headline. Every warning is a signal boost. Trying to muffle a player with an audience is like trying to put out a kitchen fire with cooking oil. The room only gets brighter. And while everyone was still replaying the clip and arguing about tone, something weirder and louder took over. The crowd started acting like a crowd from a league that matters. Restless, tribal, territorial, a little messy, fully alive. The line between small but devoted and we will let you hear us is sharp. When a fan base crosses it, you feel it in your chest. That's the moment that you learned. Growth doesn't come with padded gloves. It arrives swinging. This is where Sophie's values snapped into focus. Lots of athletes can go viral for something. Very few can turn the moment into a message and the message into momentum. She didn't tweet, vanish, and hope for the best. She kept talking. She kept translating. She kept saying the quiet part that fans, and frankly some players, were already saying in group chats. If the league wants the new wave, it has to stop pretending the tide is optional. The proof spilled over in the next debate. A veteran name left. A fan base responded with booing that echoed like a verdict.
But she got to Indiana and she just like really wasn't happy. And like, I want people to be happy. So that's why I'm kind of like neutral on this one, which a lot of people are surprised about. She's towards the end of her career. So like, she deserves her flowers. She deserves to be happy. But I also think that if you're going to leave, like, you're going to have to expect getting booed. Like,
Was there explanation when it happened? No. Not even privately? Yeah, I mean, okay. That's tough. And yeah, okay. Well, I did say what? Unless you leave on some you type shit, and that's what that is. So
yeah, like I'm still rooting for her. Like, I want her to end her career and be happy. But I also think that like it's okay to be professional about it and like send a text to your teammates. Send a text and be like, hey, like, love you guys. Or you don't even have to say love you guys. Just like, hey, sorry this didn't work out. Good luck. Da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? Like, there's a way to handle that, I think.
People tried to scold the crowd. Some tried to reframe it as disrespect. But this is sports. Loyalty has teeth. It has memory. It has a volume knob with only 2 settings, off or earthquake. And Sophie? She didn't do the diplomatic 2-step. She said what everyone who's watched this game for decades knows by heart. If a star leaves, expect the boos. That's not cruelty. That's the price of mattering. Let's pause here because this is where the old gatekeepers used to turn down the sound and control the volume. For years, they had the only microphones that mattered. Give us access, and we'll make you visible. Give us quotes, and we'll make them safe. That arrangement has been cracking for a while. Sophie didn't just chip it. She walked past it. She made it clear that access isn't a door anymore. It's a wireless signal. If you can hit record, you can hit publish. If fans trust you, you don't need an official escort to your own audience. There's a reason that scares the people who've always held the keys. When players speak with no translator, fans realize the press conference was only one way to get truth, and not always the most honest one. When a player's account outperforms a network's account, the question flips from who will cover her to why is the coverage less interesting than the source? And when someone like Sophie becomes the person you'd rather listen to than the panel built to talk about her, you are not watching a moment. You're watching a power transfer. So yes, a neon object bouncing across a floor made for a wild clip. But the clip is just the hook. The story is what the league discovered in the Echo. People don't want sanitized. They want human. They don't want PR paste. They want voice. And voice, when it lands, is something you can't fine into silence. Because once a player owns the mic, the next questions get bigger. How far does that voice reach?
There's really good, well-known people in our league. I'm not discrediting them. Like, we have a lot of badasses in our league.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah to that. I'm all for that. But when people try to argue that she's not the face of our league,
Yeah.
or if our league would be where we're at without her, you're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
You're literally dumb.
One of the biggest stars the WNBA's ever
Who's that?
had. Her name rhymes with Schmaitlin.
Hurtland?
Yeah. What has that been like, seeing her not only kind of transform a league, but also just be like,
No,
is that fair to say? Okay.
Not even just the league, but like
The
women's
sport?
basketball as a whole around the
Yeah.
world. No, I think it's awesome. I think it's so funny because she's like 22, 23 years old and the whole world is watching her.
What happens when the league and the media ecosystem try to corral it? And what does it look like when fans pick sides, not just between teams, but between a player with a camera and the old system that used to decide what we're allowed to see? Start with the name that made nerves hum, DB, a legend, a resume that earns claps in every gym, a signing that looked like a new chapter, followed by a quick exit that turned into a riddle with a scoreboard. Paperwork is clean. Emotions never are. When she came back, a building did what buildings do when they feel jilted. it booed. If you've never seen that before, it can feel harsh. If you've watched big-time sports for 5 minutes, you know it means something nobody should want to undo. Investment. It means a fan base attached itself to a timeline, not a transaction sheet. It means the small market jokes don't land anymore. It means the team matters to the people in that room more than polite applause will ever show. In that environment, what's truly disrespectful isn't booing. It's pretending these fans are props. Sophie refused to pretend. She didn't make it personal. She didn't aim cheap shots. She just named the rule that applies to everyone. Leave and expect a reaction. Not because people hate you, because they loved having you. That's the cost of feeling. If you've ever been on the right side of a championship parade, you know it's the same emotion, just angled in the opposite direction. Now zoom out and put that moment on the timeline with everything else fans were already processing.
You have seen players in our league try to like toughen up Caitlin. We call her CC. For even when I wasn't on her team, like I know the talks that Phoenix had in the locker room of like, no, we're gonna prove her, we're gonna show her what the W really is. You know what I mean? And like I get it to it a certain extent, and like every rookie coming into the league, that's how you're gonna treat them. But there's just more. So it's her second year, and like now being on her team and like seeing it, I'm like, what are people doing? Like actually, it's just too much. And like it's just. I'm over. And if I'm saying it's too much...
A rookie so magnetic that road games felt like home games. Players figuring out in public what was normal physicality and what crossed the line. Viral clips that look like comedy until you're the one stepping on them. And a player in Sophie who kept pouring jet fuel on honesty and somehow walking away with more trust, not less. That's not chaos. That's growth. Loud and imperfect. Here's what the old guard misunderstood about the players with platforms era. They thought competing with players meant winning a ratings battle. They forgot trust is the score. The audience isn't comparing studio segments to athlete clips in a vacuum. They're comparing emotion to emotion. Who sounds like they were there? Who sounds like they care? Who sounds like they'd say the same thing on or off camera? When the gap is obvious, the algorithm doesn't save you. The scroll does. And that's why networks are suddenly in a sprint they didn't plan. If the best storytellers are the people wearing uniforms, you can't afford to sit across from them holding a clipboard and calling it ownership. You have to invite them to co-own the mic. You have to offer them the one thing they don't need but will appreciate: infrastructure, lighting, booking, cut downs, distribution. But keep your hands off the voice, because the voice is the product. Sponsors are tracking the same shift. It's not 2012 anymore. A high-gloss 30-second spot with a smile and a script doesn't move a community like a 40-second phone video where a player says something spicy and the comments light up like a sold-out lower bowl.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that your job is easy, but when it is a simple call right in front of your face multiple times, what are you doing? What are you doing?
What call are you like bugged out?
All of them.
Everything.
Like, it's just like they're just so inconsistent. Like, that's my thing. Like, if you're on the other team and you're going to be finding the shit out of me, cool. But let me do it to you. You know what I mean?
Like consistency then.
Yeah, like just give. And I think that's players across the league and like new fans across the country. Like, everyone's like, what is going on with the refs? And I'm like, I don't know. And you finding me $500 is not going to do shit.
Dumb question. Like, if someone were to like say someone called men's basketball their whole life and then went over to women's, would they be expected to call the game differently, just given like the style and like physicality and stuff like that?
Authenticity is messy. It's also measurable. Saves, shares, watch time, return viewers, sentiment. The brands that win will be the ones that stop treating athletes like mannequins and start treating them like creators. Team contracts will feel this, too. Media availability won't just mean stand at a backdrop and say 3 safe sentences. It'll mean bring your audience into this moment with you without burning the building down. It'll mean negotiating rights for behind-the-scenes clips, film sessions, mic'd up snippets, things that used to live in a vault. It'll mean language that recognizes the value of a player's channel and the league's channel without forcing one to swallow the other. Of course, this new world won't be tidy. There will be weeks that feel like the entire sport is arguing. There will be a quote that goes too far, a joke that clinks, a clip that needs context. But none of that is new. What's new is who gets to resolve it. In the old model, a misstep disappeared into a statement of regret. In the new one, a player can sit down the next day, look into a lens, and say, "Here's what I meant." Here's where I missed. Here's what I still stand on. That's not weaker. That's stronger. Fans don't need flawless. They need human. Back to Sophie. What makes her a problem for gatekeepers is not that she's louder. It's that she's clearer. She speaks in the same rhythm people argue in group chats, with the same mix of conviction and humor, the same willingness to poke at the rules.
The thing that I have the biggest issue about the female sides of refs is like, they're so emotional. Like the guys, no, the NBA officials, like the NBA players fuck those officials like no other.
Yeah.
Like I've worked broadcast, I've been to games, I'm friends with these people. They fuck them.
Yeah.
And the only person that I've ever seen able to like mother a ref on the women's side is Diana Taurasi.
And they like take it.
Yeah, they had to.
Yeah, they have
and
to.
like, but when she's probably one of the worst people that I've seen go after refs.
Everybody else tiptoes around. That rhythm is sticky. That's why her defense of Clark attached itself to highlights. That's why her warning about fan antics didn't feel like scolding. It felt like common sense. That's why her read on DB's return played like a translation, not a takedown. She communicates in a way that turns "I watched a clip" into "I follow her now." Give that a season. And you don't just get clips, you get a constituency. People who watch certain games because she's in them. People who share certain angles because she said it that way. People who start looking at the media map and choosing routes that go through players first. It's subtle until it isn't. And once it tips, you can't uninvent it. The audience learns the shortcut and never takes the long way again. So, what happens next? Short term, more shows with players at the wheel. Some will be fantastic immediately. Some will be awkward for 10 episodes, and then find their stride. A few will flame out, and that's okay. Every wave produces foam. Medium term, leagues will standardize guidelines that focus less on restricting speech and more on channeling it.
Like the refs, and I'm not saying they're emotional, like the men and women, it doesn't matter the gender.
Yeah.
On our side, they are too emotionally invested and they can't take it. And I'm like,
is it new to the WNBA that you guys are like maybe talking more shit back to refs, or has that been a thing forever?
oh, it's always been.
Safety rules and arenas that actually get enforced. Clearer boundaries for what's fair criticism and what hits the line. Faster internal comms so players aren't learning policy from a press release. Long term, the balance of narrative power settles where it always should have been, with the people who live it, not just the people who describe it. And if you need a simple test for whether this is good for the sport, check the two numbers that matter most at scale: attention and attachment. Attention is views, tickets, time watched. Attachment is I care what happens next. Both are surging in the wake of all this. Not because the league rolled out a new slogan, because someone in the middle of it decided to talk like a person, not a press kit. That's why the fines didn't land. That's why the booing didn't ruin the image. That's why the wobbly object on the floor wasn't the story. It was a symptom. The story is a player who refuses to outsource her voice, a fan base that refuses to be told how to feel, and a league discovering the most powerful marketing campaign on earth: truth, even when it's inconvenient. So, yes, Sophie Cunningham disrupted the flow. She made a lot of people in nice chairs uncomfortable. She also handed them a gift, proof that the audience is real, reachable, and ready to ride with anyone who speaks plainly. If you're building the future of this sport, circle that sentence and underline it twice. Because in this era, the formula is not mysterious. Own your voice, earn the trust, and once you earn it, the rest of the numbers follow.